way, see, the problem that we were trying to solve when we started the company was more around bringing back joy into classrooms, right? Because we saw that how, especially if you look at the high school segment, how the subjects became very, very dry, right? Especially in STEM, and how that, joyfulness, which is there in basically kindergarten and primary, right? Where you're learning new concepts, new foundational concepts. You do activity-based learning. You do a lot of interesting ways to learn, which over time become more theoretical in nature. Because I remember even I was in school, there were a lot of concepts that, didn't make sense, right? And I mean, I always had this question, why are we even studying it, right? How does it affect my life? Like matrices and determinants, why am I putting all these numbers and boxes and trying to do an inverse of a matrix and a joint of a, it doesn't affect me. I don't even know where I'm going to use it and whether I going to have a career in this. Why should I spend so much of my life literally studying all this stuff? So I never drew a connection why it's important to me, why we should study. So those were a couple of, starting points for us, how we can make more sense out of some of these drier concepts and make it more enjoyable and, fun along the way. And also make it experiential, where it doesn't feel like, you really have to learn from, just a, plain paper of a textbook, because a lot of students are wired very differently, right? All of us are wired very differently. Some students learn from more visual memory. Some people learn from more experiential memory, and a lot of people learn from hearing stuff. So all of that contributes. But what we've understood is the more experiential you make, basically your learning, the rate of retention improves over time. So let's say in a traditional classroom, it's 20 to 30% because most of it is about hearing, seeing, and reading, right? With just those three modalities, you end up being at 20 to 30% of retention after 2 weeks. But if you look at learning by doing, and the more you do, the more you experience, it is more than 90%. I mean, that's a huge gap, right? So that is when learning becomes ubiquitous and you don't feel like you're studying, right? I mean, you're learning, and there is no pass and fail in learning, right? I always say that you always get something from it. So that was the main objective, and we ended up creating Practically, and the name itself tells you why it's Practically, because it's practical approach to learning. Everything we do aims at experiential learning. How do we make learning more fun and experiential? And how do we help teachers? Because teachers are a very important peg in this whole journey. How do we enable and empower them rather than thinking of complementing or, rather than thinking of replacing or competing with them, right? We want to complement teachers. We want to make sure that they have a toolkit available to them, and they can be superheroes in their class again, right? So though internet is always available for students to go and Google out stuff and learn from, I don't think you can undermine the value that a teacher brings in a classroom, right? So we always make sure that we are enabling the teacher as well, and then obviously serving the student post school.
Thank you, Charu. That was very insightful. So, anyone who has the right attitude to learning, can use the internet and apps like Practically to, work on their learning and learn more and more. Now, coming down to Swati. Swati, so what was the business challenge that you were facing? And, what solution did you offer to the market? Swati, I would request you to unmute yourself.
9 months of using Zoom, and that still happens. Okay. So honestly, internet forms the very premise of our organization. This was around 2010 and 11, when our generation had started to become very spoiled with internet. We were used to now booking our movies online, our hotels online, airlines online. And as a consequence, whatever was not available to book online, and now we had to physically do the process, would really make us, inconvenienced. And that's where, we identified one of the opportunities. The sports facilities, the process to book a game for you to go ahead and play, that was very manual and tedious. You had to call up you had to first find the facility online. You had to search for the contact number. You had to reserve a slot there. More often than not, even reservation was not available. You had to walk up straight away to the facility, hope that you'll get a slot or probably wait your turn. So in an internet-enabled era, this seemed a little tedious and very manual in nature, and that we identified as a problem. Um, Especially, we looked for inspiration towards the West, where this had been advanced significantly. There were aggregators available, there were marketplaces available, booking platforms available, where everything was happening online. You could read more. Internet is about transparency, giving the power to the customer, and that was not there available for us. I didn't have options to compare and see the pricing and know exactly what I'm getting into. So that was the problem. We set up golf LAN in 2012. That put together, we started with golf because I was an HNI sport, and the idea was to go on to other sports gradually across India. We worked on our own tech-enabled platform, which we intended to install at all the golf courses. But that's where we faced a huge challenge, and the challenge was in the B2B SaaS space. Around 2012, the acceptability of change and changing habits was very difficult. Which means that people did not want to start using technology to manage their inventory. While consumers were ready, that we want to book online, but the facilities were not necessarily ready to be tech enabled. Facilities were happy to continue, booking things online. Why change something if it's not broken? Why fix it? They were getting some business. They were getting people coming in, walking in. So why to, move online? Especially in a country like India, where the cost of manpower is so low. People are happy कि अच्छा ये नहीं हो रहा है, 2 बंदों से नहीं हो रहा है तो 4 बंदे लगा देंगे, but technology नहीं लगाएंगे because it's unknown, because it's uncomfortable and difficult. So there was a lot of resistance to becoming tech enabled, and that challenge kind of became an opportunity for us, where we said that let's do it the other way around. Let's not tell them to be tech enabled. Let's give them a lot of business, have the power to ask them to be tech enabled. And that's what we did. We worked on the demand side. Last 7-8 years, we converted ourselves into a B2B player, where we worked with a lot of corporate partners. We generated demand for sports. We generated demands not just for sports, for travel, for lifestyle, wellness, dining partners. And then we went back and said, hey, I give almost 20% of your business to you, 30% and I need convenience. I want you to be tech enabled. And today, since 2017, our facilities have started adopting the technology so that we have a more seamless experience. So that was the problem. Technology enablement was a huge issue early 2011-12. It started changing in 2017, and tech was a challenge, but tech was also a solution to that challenge.
That's interesting. Tech was a challenge, but tech also was a solution. And probably the evolutionary nature of technology is something which we have to accept for it, because, over a period of time it evolves, and, it tries to, there are always new technologies coming in, which try to replace old technologies, and, then they try to find solutions to those challenges. Now that the participants have got a, kind of a very brief understanding of the organizations that you work in, I think we would also now like to know something about, your individual journeys. So starting with Charu, what prompted you to set up practically, or and get into this tech-driven startup business?
So being a computer science engineer by discipline, right, having chosen that path, I didn't know anything else. I mean, when I graduated from college, I mean, by default, it was, right, you know, a career in development and coding, because that's what we knew. And that was those were the companies, in fact, visited our placement campuses, you know, our campuses for placement opportunities, all of the service. And I graduated in Bangalore, right, from RV College. So we used to get the first shot at all of these services and, you know, the Googles of the world. In fact, Google had opened office in Hyderabad, and I clearly remember, you know, having 6 rounds of interview with Google and finally being, you know, excluded in the final leg with 2 of, you know, another batchmate of mine. So because there was just 1 spot. So there was companies, a lot of good companies coming to our campuses for, you know, mass placements. And even if you did civil engineering, you ended up getting placed in Infosys or one of these service companies, right? So it really didn't matter which stream in engineering, especially in my college, you took. You eventually had to develop something, a career in technology, or at least had to start from there. I don't remember that we had too much of applying jobs online back in the day. I don't remember ever Googling for a job interview online. So I think all the opportunities we saw was all through our placement coordinators and placement office. Right. So the career in tech was like the de facto thing that started for me. And I joined as an application developer in Samsung, where, you know, we were given a very good project to begin with. We had about 200 people join in Samsung that year, directly from college recruitment. And, you know, it was kind of interesting, right? Because it was you could create things. You could actually create things in a span of that first training period. I mean, we created so many small objects, small projects. We had a team that worked on a completely new idea, right from the scratch to the delivery of that idea. In fact, to the stage where we almost wanted to file a patent for it. So that happened in like record time. And that's the power of technology, right? That's the power of technology. You can create and deliver and test all in record time. It's not like the manufacturing industry where you have to wait a year for a new model, right? For example, for a car. So that high speed of impact, that high speed of delivery is always something that is kind of, you know, inspired me and always kind of, you know, caught my attention, that you can change stuff just by, you know, working a few nights, right? So that's the career. I mean, it's always been very, very close to my heart, right? And especially now being in EdTech, how much impact you can actually create using technology. If you look at it, you know, the pandemic, we could have actually, every child would have lost an academic year, 1 year, right? It's almost like we call it, you know, after 12th standard, you know, dropping a year, right? I mean, that's a world in itself would have dropped a year. You know, if we didn't have technology, right? I mean, delivering entire curriculums, you know, connecting a teacher and a student in a very meaningful and intelligent way, right? Not just enabling them to deliver lectures, but also enabling them to do it very smartly and intelligently using, you know, best in breed of technology, AI, ML, you know, delivering them really powerful visualized content, right? So they don't have to do something that the technology can do, right? So technology has taken a lot of heavy lifting from our educators also, and their role has redefined over time. So it has made, you know, also there are educators, even, you know, as Swati was saying, even today, you know, before the pandemic, there were a lot of educators who always felt that, you know, hum bhi to padhi liye, right? I mean, we also grew up without technology, and they feel we are pretty smart people. Why our kids need so much of technology? All of that changed. Now the narrative has completely changed, right? And everybody's like, what best we can take from technology, because there are options now and they want to explore everything. So, you know, it's just, I would say, very, very interesting times for us post-pandemic, because I think you know, the learnings will stay, right? It is not going to go back to pre-pandemic. It is going to become, especially for the edtech sector, it's going to become more blended in nature. It is always going to be there. All solutions are going to be COVID proof going forward, right? Because this will always be in the back of our heads that there could be a situation where we couldn't physically arrive at a a place of common place of learning. So it is just technology has been, I'm being very passionate about it. Obviously, my co-founders are amazing tech leaders. They've had immense experience in this, and I've learned a lot along the way. So I've been fortunate enough to work alongside one of the brightest, few of the brightest minds in the industry. So yeah, I mean, that's been my experience with technology.
That's a wonderful journey itself. So, as someone who inspires to be a creator, so you are not only creating apps now, but you're also creating experiences and products from people. So this innate sense of creativity is now rolling out to business. And, we really appreciate the fact that, you are empathetic about people who have lost their academic years. And, during our times, we always had campus placements during engineering, but nowadays a lot of students have to go online and apply for jobs. So technology has become a key enabler in this entire process, and it is nice to know that your computer engineering skill sets are also enabling you to be a better entrepreneur. When you are trying to develop or let's put it in this way, trying to develop better algorithms to solve the traditional education challenge. Moving to Swati, who is our another entrepreneur here, from a lifestyle segment. Swati, can you now tell us a bit about your journey?
Prateek, my journey with technology could not be more different from Charu's. I am an accidental entrepreneur and a completely accidental techie. I grew up in a very traditional middle-class Indian family where we were blessed. I think that by our time, it was acceptable for girls to have a great education. But it was still not so common for us to have, very aggressive, ambitious, career-oriented plans. So even if we were planning for a career, the advice was, take something comfortable, take something stable, flexible, a government job kar lo, teaching job kar lo. So it was, that kind of always plays on your mind when you're planning your career. So when I entered the corporate world also, by the way, I did my graduation also in literature. I thought I'll be a nice professor, but life happens. I entered the corporate world through human resources. You perceive it to be more of a nurturing role, less intense. And I started with a leadership development consultancy, which was a fabulous foundation. I didn't know what I was preparing myself for, but it gave me that exposure. One of my clients and a good friend, he was wanting to launch something, and he wanted to digitize the sport of golf. And he was an avid sports person. I'm a reader through and through. I'm not that much into sports as much as I am into actual board games than physical sports. So he was into sports, and he was very inconvenienced by the whole process. And he said, you could be your overly cautious planning self could be a good antidote to his aggressive growth driven self. So he wanted me to join and help him set up. And I didn't bat an eyelid, and I said no. It sounds insanely risky, very uncomfortable. Everything goes against my upbringing. However, I still went ahead and I said, I'll help you while I continue looking for that something stable. It's been 8 years. I didn't quit. I couldn't quit. As any entrepreneur would know, that once you start, then you can't quit. It is very difficult. You become very responsible for the organization, especially during the initial years when the power is so centralized. You yourself are a department, not one, but maybe 3 departments are all rolled into that one person. So out of that sense of responsibility, I didn't leave. It's been 8 years. Why I say I'm an accidental entrepreneur and a techie, because if you would have asked me, do I want to launch a company? I would have said no. Am I capable enough to run a multi-million-dollar global tech company? I would have said no. But entrepreneurship happened to me, and I chose to stick with it, chose to persevere through the many, 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 many challenges that come with it. So that's been a bit of my journey with entrepreneurship and tech.
That's very inspiring, when we hear through your stories of persistence, of sticking it out. And, when you said that you are an accidental entrepreneur and an accidental leader for that sense, some of us actually also wish that, such accidents do happen to us also at some points of time in our lives. But, well said. And, both of you have given a very interesting insight, on your life journey and, your vision on why you wanted to run these companies. But, it all looks hunky-dory when we look from outside. But I'm sure that each of you would have faced certain challenges, while in your journey of setting these companies up. So for the young audiences here, as well as people from different backgrounds, Charu, can you just tell us what kind of challenges you face on a day-to-day basis, in case if anyone is looking to emulate you as a person?
So I think everybody faces challenges, right? Whether they are entrepreneurs or not. I'm not undermining the numerous challenges that come along, even while you're an entrepreneur in a company, or you're even doing a regular job of something that you're passionate about. I mean, right? I mean, any kind of job comes with challenges. So not to undermine other people pursuing other journeys, but entrepreneurship obviously is full of it, right? I mean, the reason is because especially when you start at the beginning, as Swati also said, right, you're a couple of departments together. So if you can imagine starting out with a couple of individuals or founders, and if you're a single founder, it's very tough. But if you at least have a couple of founders, it's slightly easy because you overcome the challenges together, and there's this sense of togetherness and a shared vision to begin with, right? So definitely I would recommend that having at least two founders or at least one co-founder is definitely helpful, especially if you can have a complementary skill set. So for example, in our case, both of my other founders, right, I mean, two of us are quite aggressive. I am more of a very optimistic aggression, right, where one is more realistic aggression and one is conservative and practical. So it kind of completes that perspective that we should have when we're setting out foot in the marketplace, right? So not burn our fingers right out of the door. So that definitely helps, having a great team. I think investors also value that a lot, especially early stage investors. So having a great set of team behind you is good. And I would say the challenge is that as you grow, right, people from the outside think, okay, now you have a product, you have launch, you've had investors behind your back, you have more money, so maybe you're more comfortable. It never happens, right? The more money you bring in, the more challenges you bring in with it, and the more growth you see, the more challenges you bring with. The more successful the company looks from an outside, it brings in more challenges as well. So challenges may be different kind of it, right? But definitely I feel the challenges I had 5 years ago, when we 6 years ago starting out, now seem so small, right, than what we go through here every day. It is just that added responsibility. We have hundreds of people that we feel responsible towards, and families we feel responsible towards day in and day out. So challenges don't get smaller, definitely. So if you are in this for the long haul, don't think it'll get comfortable. Over years, it'll only going to get bigger and challenging. but it's also, it's obviously not a bed of roses, but it's also not only thorns, right? You do have those moments of elation. You have those moments of satisfaction where you see a team member grow from, from nothing to now being a director or a VP level, where you've actually seen them grow in your career and help them along the way, or nurtured them along the way, right? You have those moments of shared happiness when a customer says something really good about your product, or about your service, or you are able to actually solve customer problems by doing a quick hot fix, or doing a feature rollout in a matter of weeks. All of that collective, I think, spirit really gives you that satisfaction, which perhaps in a normal course of employment you don't get to see that, because of the speed that things work in a larger company versus a smaller startup culture. And also just being very close to the customer, and being very, very closely involved with every aspect, right? So I think that kind of gives you an adrenaline rush, right? That you are in control. It actually makes you feel that impact that you can deliver is addictive, right? It's almost addictive, that you can do it, right? And you actually see that happening in quick wins. So I think it is very, very interesting, right? I mean, challenges are part of entrepreneurship. You'll always have cash crunch. You'll always have decisions, very tough decisions to make, right? For example, if you to let go of a project or let go of a team member for reasons could be many, but things get very challenging, and you're the decision maker. So you own up those decisions, which are very heavy, impactful, long-lasting decisions, right? And you have a lot of course of people to answer: your team, your customers, investors, yourself at the end of the day, because you made the decision to be in that entrepreneurial journey. And the lifestyle, right? I always say entrepreneurship is a lifestyle, because if you look at it, right, you're not in it by yourself. Your families are in it, and your families have to be very, very understanding for you to be a successful entrepreneur. And if your families are they suffer a lot. They also seek happiness when you're happy. They also drive, so they are very, very important in a journey of an entrepreneur. I don't see any entrepreneur becoming successful without having the support of the family, because it is a lot of sacrifice, right? It is a lot of sacrifice. And from the, from internet perspective, if you look at it, right, the challenges that I have seen, even from a product perspective, and if I think about how internet challenges over the last 6 years, just being in relation to my product itself, right? The places that our customers have faced challenges, right, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities, even while delivering an edtech product, right? I mean, internet even today is not very stable, and you don't get high-speed internet in some of the deeper pockets in India. If you go tier 2 cities, maybe okay, but outskirts of the suburbs of tier 2 cities may not get high-speed internet. So we've optimized a lot of things in our app. So our product is heavily influenced by these internet challenges, because anytime we roll out a new feature, we have to first market test it within a low bandwidth network, right? And we have to see that the experience of the product is not compromised just because internet bandwidth shifted, and the data, actually the speed took a hit, during that experience of the product. And for example, we have a lot of visualized content, a lot of really high fidelity visualized content, right, for learning from 6 to 12 math and science. And this, we've introduced adaptive learning, right? Adaptive streaming. And adaptive streaming you can actually have just like YouTube does, right? So we've made sure that anytime a student is, watching the video, no matter what the speed of the internet is, right from 144p to HD, right, is available. All that spectrum is available to make the experience better. Testing in low bandwidth becomes very important in such crucial times. I'll give you an example in pandemic, right? We never expected this, that online classes will become a norm. Internet, the data consumption in a 1 hour online virtual class is about 600 to 700 MB, right? And that became a major concern for our customers. It really became a major concern for our customers because they were now, losing a lot of data. And we, sitting at our homes, think that we have stable Wi-Fi connections available, and we don't care about, especially, right now I'm in California, and we never even think about, how much data we've consumed. I mean, data is always there, right? Who goes back and says, like, I have 350 GB data on my, Airtel in India also, right? I mean, now we don't think about it. But even today, tier 2, tier 3 cities customers who have prepaid plans, they think about data consumption. And when this happened, pandemic happened, let's say you have a plan of 2 GB per month. 2 GB goes in 2 hours. 2 classes, 2 online classes. Now that is a major challenge. I mean, how parents really kept the learning of their kids going. I mean, we learned a lot, in pandemic, what our customers' data and internet challenges are, right? And this was also a learning for our, product as a whole, as a company, how we can think about better solutions in days to come. While hoping that this internet speed and connectivity and network in India improves to the deeper roots and deeper trenches of rural and urban India, right? So hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Charu. Before moving to Swati for this question, I just want to have a follow-up question here on this. So, you have rightly pointed out, that from a technology perspective, there are issues like latency, lag. No, I'm very sorry for others. I'm going to use a bit of technical software engineering terms, considering I'm a software engineer myself. So, there are issues with latency, lag, and other aspects. But one thing which a lot of parents are concerned in education sector is with regards to the privacy of their kids and the privacy of the data which their kids share with technology providers. So, how do you deal with those challenges to ensure that they have a very safe online, that the students have a very safe online learning experience? How do you ensure that aspect?
So obviously we have SLAs, we have agreements, we have a lot of privacy clauses, and any kind of our app users all have to approve that. And we don't, all tech companies, it's a standard operating procedure, right? I mean, privacy is paramount. You cannot share customer data across. Most of our students, right, the major adoption comes from schools. So when we go via the schools, most of the user generated data is by the teachers. It's created by the teachers, and all of that is a school's property, right? So obviously there is no question of sharing data outside, right? Whether it's student data or teacher data. When it comes to direct subscriptions from parents, where that is a monetization model, parents obviously have detailed terms and conditions of using the product, and obviously we honor their privacy a lot. So all the data that has gone into the app, any kind of user generated data, any classes that they've attended online using live classes where our experts kind of help students, or any doubts that they would have had, any kind of an engagement is only available to the student, right? So the way you create a product, you make sure that when you're exposing that data back, it is only the data of the customer itself, right? Unless there is a school authority which allows you to share data across, let's say there is a shared experience that a teacher did, or a shared activity the teacher did. Now that data becomes the property of the school, which is then exposed to everybody who attended that particular class or activity. So obviously there are data boundaries, there are privacy rules and logics put in place based on the kind of use case that we're talking about. But data privacy is, one of the, I would say, core pillars of any product that you will, tech-enabled product that you will build out.
Thank you, Charu. That was insightful, especially when we are trying to understand your experience of creating a safe learning environment for these students. Swati, as an accidental entrepreneur and someone who is now into this space for the past 8 years, what are some day-to-day challenges you have faced when you have become a technology enabler to these B2B businesses?
Sure. Good to hear Charu's story as well. I mean, every time I hear an entrepreneur, I see a pattern, and I know every entrepreneur recognizes similar challenges, similar, happy moments. So the story is exactly the similar. Of course, depending on your products and markets, the final outcome differs. When you raised this question, I remembered a beautiful few lines that I came across a few days back, and I'd saved them. Pardon my accent, but I'll repeat them, and I'm sure it will resonate with every entrepreneur. It said, कामयाबी की राह में धूप बहुत काम आई, कामयाबी की राह में धूप बहुत काम आई, छाव मिली होती तो सो ही गए होते. And I absolutely loved these lines because that's the truth. Everything we are today is...
Swati, can you just translate those lines for our non-Hindi audiences here? I'm interrupt you, but you know there are a few people who wouldn't understand Hindi. So can you translate these lines for them?
It means that on the path to success, the sunlight, is it sunlight? Dhoop? The sunlight was very useful. If we would have gotten shade, we would have probably slept off. So it sounds more poetic and beautiful in Hindi than it does in English. But it is the truth. I started by sharing that, you know, how our business strategy actually shifted completely, because when we started out, we were bootstrapped. You know, we were working out of scarcity. So you do everything you can to survive. Honestly, today, touch wood, when you know things are a lot more stable, you forget the intense pain that you go through in the first year or two, when you know you don't have an office, you don't have enough to invest in a big team. You want to take decisions, but you know you don't have that much to take big risks. So of course, the scarcity, cash flow issues, people management issues, the amount of stress that you go through, all those are there. But for me, the challenge was that, you know, the product that we launched, it took time to be accepted, but that became the biggest opportunity for us. While we were waiting for the product to be picked up and for it to become, you know, a big success, we did everything we could to survive. Whatever business would come our way, whatever opportunities we could, it gave us a lot more depth about the industry. From a retail focus, we became corporate focused, which brought in a lot of upfront capital, which brought in bottom line, and that became our business model then. Today, that's why we call ourselves a B2B marketplace. Whereas we started by the plan to be a tech company servicing retail customers. So what we started with is not what we are today, but we are a much better version of it. That was one big challenge that we had. Of course, as a non-techie, to run a tech company is another challenge altogether. The biggest asset for an entrepreneur is his or her gut feeling. You always know what your business needs, but when you don't have the technical skills, you may know what your customer needs, you may know exactly what you want, but if you don't have the technical skills of converting it into a product, your sixth sense, your instincts, they get blunted. So I kind of addressed it by working with tech leaders who were very trustworthy. While I don't recommend working with family and friends, but that was one domain we were working with family and friends. You also then, you know, work with a lot of mentors. So we had some leading people from the tech industry, people who were consultants to Steve Jobs, from Cisco, working with John Chambers. Such people were, you know, our consultants, our mentors. We would make sure that, you know, for all strategic inputs, we would reach out to them, take inputs from them. Any challenges, we would run it past them. So that is another challenge, and how we overcame that. Today, the challenges are much different. Challenges which were there 8 years back, 6 years back, 4 years back. Today, the challenges are different. We're a more stable firm. Now, how to scale from a startup to a stable company, that's another challenge. we all need to change. I need to change from a reactive zone to a more proactive zone. So each one of us has to first change and then bring that change in our organization. Data security, cyber security is a huge requirement today. It is a threat today with the data leak that happened for Just Pay and Amazon and Swiggy. That just tells you that no matter how big you are, you have to do a lot today to make sure that your company is secure out, your customers data, your clients data is secure with you. So challenges at different levels are changing, but for sure time heals. So I had to go back, way back, to remember what were the challenges I faced 8 years back, 7 years back. The focus is so much on today. So thanks for the opportunity to reflect.
Thank you, Swati. In fact, you made us realize that, it is always easier to forget some pains, because if you relive them more and more often, probably you will never be able to look forward. And that is what we have got from you. So now I think, Nandita, we will leave the floor open for the audiences to ask their questions to our women leaders here. So any questions from the audience, I would request you to raise your hand via reactions, or at least, inform us on the chat, and we'll call you out to ask your question. So Shweta, I can see Shweta, that's, are you just trying to check that feature out? Do you have a general
I'm
question?
not trying to check that feature out. I have a question for both Charu and Swati. I've heard your inspiring
Just a minute.
journeys.
So Charu and Swati, Shweta is the current president of ISOC India Mumbai. And
this is hi.
So she will, Shweta, please ask your question.
My question is to both of y'all, that both of y'all are entrepreneurs in this digital setup. Any specific advantage or disadvantage of being a woman in this space? Like, we are not used to see so many women tech savvy, leave alone running a business, technology driven business. So
I can go first. So definitely there are less women in the space, right? Even today. I hope that changes actually. I mean, it is changing. It is definitely changing, but at a slower pace than, we would hope for. Even if you look at it, and I think as you go in the leadership roles, right, it becomes even more so apparent, right? Because most of the times you're the only female in the room, in a boardroom, be it a huddle, be it maybe in a war room, right? Generally women are in minority much more, you can, less than, you can count them on your fingers, right? So, and more often than not, I have been almost the only one in most of these situations, right? I've been a software engineer, starting my career out with Samsung. Post that, I was sent, I remember clearly, I was in the first year of joining Samsung, I was sent to US because I happened to have a tourist visa here, and for some business opportunity I got to travel here, and I was among like 8 other people, all men, who traveled with me. And it is a lonely journey generally. That's what I have found, that if you are a women in tech, and generally it is a lonely journey, right? Whether you see everybody would go out for dinner and or for whatever their entertainment post office hours, and they won't take me along. I mean, I always felt that it was, I'm all alone in Dallas, and a new place, and first time I'm in a new country, and so it's always a lonely journey, what I felt, because lack of more female in the room. But I think it has also served me well, right? It's also an advantage, I feel, sometimes, being the only girl in the room, because your opinion is more valued and sought for. Obviously you have to have the right band of people around you for that, but I think it could also serve well, because women have a very, very different perspective on most things, right? On most things, like 90%, I would say they bring a unique perspective on the table, because their experiences are obviously very different, right? So right from the beginning. So I think that if people in the room really value that perspective, I think that is also an added advantage, because after all the debate is done, mostly they'll ask you, what do you think, right? Because it just becomes so apparent that your input is, becomes more so valuable. And that's what I've seen. But definitely women in leadership roles need to be more, I feel. They have a unique way of managing people. I think they are better people managers. They're better communicators. They can keep it together, right? I think they can keep it much better together. You'll see now a lot of US companies, having their CEOs. A lot of them are even loss making and want to turn around their financials. And that's when they're appointing these female leaders, because apparently they're better at even watching the wallet, right? So it is good that we are in a very good space. I think the next decade will be very instrumental in changing the whole status quo. So that's what I hope for. Over to you, Swati.
Thanks, Charu. 100% agree with you that, women have such a unique style and unique perspective that they bring to the table. I absolutely love working with women. Most of my, key positions in my company are held by women. Advantages and disadvantages to be a tech leader as a female, I think, are exactly the same that you have, for being a woman in the corporate world in general, or woman in the leadership positions. Of course, you will get, you will be, the numbers are going to be stacked against you. You're going to be the lower of the lot. But at the same time, the challenges are the same, and you can overcome them with the same assertiveness, knowing exactly what is it that you want, not caring what people think. That's a difficult one that you have to get used to, whether as a male or as a female, and that makes the journey much easier. I think the biggest advantage of being a female leader or a female corporate person is that women are natural overthinkers. So I absolutely like putting women in roles of compliance, even role of techies, because you just make sure that nothing important gets missed out. So that is really great. The other thing, I mean, Charu and I, we share our investee company. Your Nest Fund has invested into both Thrive as well as Practically, and I think it's the same story there. We have around 40 male founders and probably 4 or 5 of us females there, not because there is any gender bias. I think the group and the fund is excellent. I don't think we've ever experienced any form of gender differentiation happening there, but it just so happens that the pipeline is smaller. There are lesser number of female leaders there. There are lesser number of female techies who come for interviews in my organization. So just that the numbers are lower, but they're growing. And hopefully it's a problem and it's a discussion that we won't be having in the coming years.
Just to add one more line here, right? I mean, this is something I heard from Kritika, who's the leader at SoftBank in India. And she said, it really stuck with me, because I feel women don't support women as much as they should. For some, I feel we should support more women and support them to come to leadership roles. I think it is on us to change the equation and not leave it to the male counterparts to do it. I think we should ourselves, be the spokesperson of kind of narrowing this gap. And what she said is that, there is a special place in hell for those women who don't support other women.
Oh, just to add one more line here, Charu. Women should support women. Women should also support men who support women, because when you are with men, at times you're also torn apart, to whom to support, men and women. And generally one of the candid jokes which go within the men is, women would like to be with, the bad boys or the jerks, the ones who always have their own way out. So I think women should also support men who support women in this regard. Next question. Do we have anyone for the next question?
Hi.
Nandita, Priyambada, you would like to come in?
Hi,
Yeah.
hi,
Can you,
Prateek.
Priyambada, can you introduce yourself and be a bit loud?
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Priyambada. So I have a 10+ years of work experience into analytics. And so I work as a senior manager with Optum currently. So my question to you, Charu and Swati, would be, so I mean, I have an idea which I've been thinking in my head since a very long time. I've spoken to a few people. I've done a little bit of market research, market survey, in terms of sending out questionnaires and understanding what might be the response of people to that. So Charu, I think you mentioned that it's a good idea to have a co-founder or a couple of co-founders along with you. So I don't understand how to find somebody who shares my vision. So that is a challenge which I've been facing. I've spoken to a couple of people, and what I've been told is that you should begin your journey alone, and then maybe you'll find somebody down the line. So that that thought is a bit scary for me. So it is like I am right now in the comfort. So though whatever amount of time I spend in working, so I might spend burnout nights or weekends to do work, but I know that I have a certain steady income, and if I invest this much amount of time, then I have a steady income, and I do not have to go out of my way, and I don't have to struggle per se to get a steady income. So but then it's not about money, it's about I mean my vision, what I want to do. So how do I find people who can actually support me in this? So that's some, and how to basically get started about this.
So you know, something that most entrepreneurs, when they start from scratch, don't, you know, mostly I think, I mean, a lot of them don't give up what they have today just to have, you know, think that this is going to be successful, the next $1 billion idea, and let's give up what we have today in pursuit of that, right? Even, you know, me and my co-founders, we had a full-time job from 2014 till 2016. The first 3 years of our running a company back in India, we had a full-fledged operations, a pilot launched, we had customers. And even then, we were working full-time in the US, all three of us. We used to have business trips back home, and during those business trips, weekends, we would spend in our office, and 5 days a week we would spend in, you know, in the company we were employed with. So you don't have to give up it all, right? If you want to just market test your idea, get a couple of pilots done, and get a small, you know, prototype done, and understand your customer better, understand the product market fit before you want to jump in. That is completely okay, right? That is, in fact, a more, you know, I would say a lot of people do that, right? That's been a common way to begin, unless you have reserves that you can rely on for a couple of years that could take you through, and you have that kind of a support with friends and family. The second thing is that looking out for a co-founder, right? I mean, it is obviously, you know, I've been lucky that both of my co-founders were my ex-colleagues at the place that I worked. So we found each other at workplace. We bounced off ideas. We understood that, you know, we wanted to do something, and we wanted to do something back home in India, and we wanted to do something in a, you know, education or healthcare space. Healthcare was out because our company that we were working was in healthcare. So we had a very tight non-compete. Education was the next best thing we wanted to do. We had a shared passion for it. Each of us brought different experiences in education, and we wanted to do something out. So we were lucky in that way, but not everybody is. How you could go about is, one is, you know, you can start working on your prototype or your ideas, your thesis or whatever it is, and start talking to people who actually are in that space, right? So look out for communities, people who've been talking about it, maybe, you know, on platforms like LinkedIn, put out posts there, look, you know, reach out to your professional network to kind of build those connections in the same community or the same shared passion space, right? I mean, the last thing you want to do is get on a co-founder who's not passionate about the problem, right? As we always say, an entrepreneur should be married to a problem, not the solution, right? Solution can change. You may get 1,000 pivots. You will get, you know, as long as you are married to the problem, and you want to keep, pushing the problem, pushing yourself to identifying this best solution that you can give. You may not have it today, maybe 2 years hence, maybe even after product rollout. But if you're married to the problem, right, you will continue to continue to pursue it. Otherwise, you'll give it up. So you want to find a co-founder which shares a shared passion. So I think reaching out to your professional network, to a lot of people, start with looking in their childhood friends or their batchmates or seniors, juniors, people who really had a connection or that friendship that they built out, and now they actually feel, and they have a comfort zone with them. They understand each other, and they've spent a considerable amount of life with them. So it just is natural, comes natural as a working relationship. So people find co-founders. I would say it's a matter of chance, good timing, and a little bit of luck too. So I mean, all the best to you, Priyambada. It is not a straightforward answer. There's no straightforward recipe, but Swati can give perspective because her co-founder actually found her. So
thank you. Thanks, Charu.
Yeah, Priya. So on the co-founder issue, I agree. It is great to have someone who complements your skills, but the truth is that same complement also means that he contradicts your skills, which means that if you are someone who's more cautious, somebody could be more aggressive. So it's extremely important to have a co-founder that you are compatible with. You have emotional maturity and understanding, because you're going to have insane amount of arguments. Just imagine how much you argue with your boyfriends and husbands, and probably to the power of 2. Because you are raising a company, there's going to be decisions to make every single day, every single hour, and you are 2 people or 3 people who are very different styles. So don't be in a rush to find a co-founder. What you can start with is look for a team. Look for a team that complements your skills. You may come across someone who's great. Even if you don't, if you have a team that is complementing your skills, you have, given them the power to question you and guide you, wherever you are going, that would also be a great support system. Of course, be a part of women networking groups, be a part of other networking forums, speak about the concept. And as Charu said, you may attract the right person, but it's something that you should really think through. In terms of launching your company, you should not think through too much, because the truth is all the odds are stacked against an entrepreneur. 9 out of 10 fail, 7.5 out of 10 venture-backed companies fail. So there is no sure short success formula that anybody can teach anyone on entrepreneurship. It's just about taking a leap of faith and just getting started. It's a great idea to start something while you are already doing your current job. But I would still say, if you have reserves, give it your all, because a startup actually works when you give it your all. Have a sense of the product, maybe an MVP, minimal viable product, but don't think, give it your best, give yourself a year, save something, and just don't have a back door open. Because the moment you have a back door open, it won't work. The moment it's going to get tough, and it's going to get tough every single day, you would want to quit. But it's worth it. It's worth taking that journey. If it's worth giving your dreams, whatever you want. I meet female leaders every day. I meet male leaders every day, and everybody's carrying an idea. Everybody tells me, I want to start a company. This is an idea that I have. And not even 1% of them actually do it. It takes tremendous courage, tremendous bravery to actually take that leap. So give yourself that year and just do it. Look for a team that is going to complement you, and you'll find a co-founder. I personally feel, don't go looking for a co-founder. It will happen when it's happening. Look for the right team. You are capable. You can think of the idea, you are capable. I always feel, if I could run a company, I know anybody can.
Thank you very much, Swati. That's really reassuring. Thanks, Charu. Thanks, Swati. Thanks for answering my question.
Thanks, Priyamada here. So we are running a bit over time. So probably, so just one final comment or a question here. Charu and Swati, if anyone wants to reach out to you from this gang of people, you know, with regards to their questions or probably to learn from you or network with you, or probably give you a business idea or probably give you investment, if you know, one of these things, how can they reach out to you individually? So Swati, you would want to take this first? You know, just for change, we'll go Swati first and then Charu.
I'm just putting my email ID here. I read every single email that I receive, and feel free if you need any support. Over the years, you end up building a support system for a startup as well. So if you need financial, legal, technical, any guidance, we'll be happy to put you on to someone. If you want to just run your idea past, need support while you're running an organization, please drop in a text. Happy to have a coffee with you or probably a Zoom wine session with you.
So I've also dropped my email in the chat box. So anybody who wants to reach out, feel free to connect over LinkedIn or email, however it makes sense. You know, happy to share our experiences. Every entrepreneur, trust me, has a different journey, right? And their different milestones of success. So you know, we all can bring some perspective on the same subject, I'm sure. So happy to share our perspectives, and you know, sometimes just talking helps in, you know, that, you know, confidence or motivates or inspires people. And sometimes entrepreneurship also sometimes feels like a lonely journey, right? Because your array of friends and your circles and everything else kind of diminishes over time. So if you feel that you no longer fit in your friend circle anymore and nobody thinks like you, and you want to bounce off some of your ideas or your fears, right? I mean, do write to us. Always happy to share our experiences.
Thank you, Swati and Charu, for your insights. It has been a real pleasure to listen to your journeys, and we look forward to connect with you. Meanwhile, I'll request Shweta, President of ISOC India Mumbai, to give a vote of thanks.
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting and engaging discussion. I, on behalf of Internet Society India Mumbai chapter, extends a hearty vote of thanks to each and every one of you present here, taking your valuable time out, especially on a weekend morning today, and being a part of ISOC India Mumbai's third Women in Technology Leadership webinar series based on theme Learning and Thriving in Digital Age. A very special thanks to our speakers, to inspiring lady entrepreneurs, Swati Sharma, co-founder and co of Thrive, and Charu Noheria, co-founder and co of Practically. Thank you for sharing interesting facets and valuable lessons from your leadership journey in this digital space, and inspiring each one of us in your own unique ways. As no program is successful with a single person's efforts, I take this opportunity to thank my home team members. Thank you, Prateek, our founder and ex-president of chapter, for steering the discussion in an interesting manner. Thanks to our chapter treasurer, Nandita, for conceptualization and efficient program management of this event. I would like to thank Feroza for designing the beautiful webinar invites that were sent across to all of y'all. Thank you, Ankita, for creating virtual banners at such short notice. In spite of her graduation exams commencing from next week, Joisha enthusiastically agreed to be the reporter of today's event. So thank you, Joisha, for the same. And last but not the least, let me thank our wonderful audience. What a vibrant mix it was of students, entrepreneurs, academia, mid-senior level professionals, then chapter leaders and volunteers from other ISOC chapters in Asia Pacific region. Thank you one and all. And as I always say, I hope to see you sometime, somewhere again on internet soon. Till then, stay safe and stay happy. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ISOC. Thank you,
Thank
Nandita.
you.
Thank you,
End
Swati.
this
Thank
session.
you, Charu. And I guess with this, I hope, are there any other final comments? If not, then we will just, end the meeting. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Shweta, for that.
Nandita, would you like to have a group photo?
Oh, yes, I'm really
You have
sorry for
already
that. I forgot that. So we will
for
now
our
have a
report.
group-
So
Yeah.
we'll request every one of you to turn on their videos
If
for a minute
possible.
for a group photo.
Yeah, and I'll just take a photo.
Please make me realize that I'm not the only man in the room.
No, I guess we have more
We
people.
Then
have
it will be very
Parvez, we have Raghu, we have
break the
people.
glass ceiling.
No problem.
Raghu, please switch on the camera so that
We have Nagesh.
I don't I
Okay.
can empathize a lot with Charu now.
Okay, no problem. 1, 2, and
Prateek, you have company, don't worry.
yeah,
So,
thank you so much.
just a minute, I just request you all to switch on your cameras.
Okay, one more time then. 1, 2, 3, say cheese. Great, thank you so much. Nice to have you all here. I'll end the meeting now. Thank you so much and have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, let me stop recording. I've not stopped recording.